My name is Jennifer Foster, Deputy Director for Adult Education and Workforce with the Illinois Community College Board, and we are considered Title II of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. And today what I want to do is just go over who we are. I think that as we are moving through a new age of a new law, it is very important that we understand who all the players are as a part of WIOA. So today what we're going to discuss is adult education in general and what are those connections with the large, as it relates to the larger picture, looking at OneStops and unified planning and local planning, as well as several other different areas that we want to make sure that everyone really understands who adult education is and who, the population that we actually service. So we're going to hopefully get rid of some myths about who we are and who we serve and our population of students, because number one, we're all working towards the same goal, is to get individuals into training and eventually into employment. So I think that this is a good opportunity for us to really collaborate, partner, cooperate, all of those different action words in order to make a really good and viable system. So as we are talking about this whole job-driven training, we've looked at all of these different documents within adult education, the whole Ready to Work and also the President's vision for job-driven training. And we've taken a look at all of those 7 principles, and we've tried to go back and take a look at, from our standpoint, where we are in the process of making sure that this actually becomes a reality, making sure that we establish those regional partnerships. And we are working very closely with Title I, Title III, as well as Title IV to make sure that we are providing the feedback to them as they develop different strategies, working with our state workforce boards as well as our local workforce boards. We just want to make sure that we're ensuring that we are engaging employers, that we are opening doors for lots of different individuals to come into the system. As we look at connecting adult education to WIOA, again, we are Title II of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. Sometimes I think that, we are overshadowed by the other 3 partners, but I just want to emphasize that if you talk about Title II, it is adult education. And one of the things that we want to make sure as looking at this broad vision for workforce programs, that we are making sure that we're aligning all of our services, support services, as well as curricula to at the state, federal, local, and regional levels. We want to make sure that we are looking at what those needs are, the regional needs, as well as the local needs, and making sure that we tie instruction into what is necessary in order for our students to progress to either post-secondary education and training or into the employment area. The career pathways is something that adult education has been working on for quite a number of years. We have definitely been engaged with our bridge programs as well as our integrated education and training programs, ICAPs, as well as looking at sector strategies and looking at our regions, speaking to employers as well as work-based training. One of the things that we have often said as a part of our process is that we cannot do this alone when we're talking about creating some pathways for our adult learners. So this particular law comes at a great time because we definitely have to work together in order to make sure that individuals have what they need in order to be successful in the future. So this is, as we're talking about the career pathways, regional strategies, sector strategies, creating pathways for adult learners is a strategic plan for adult education that was developed back in 2009, which would be the fiscal year 2009, and we implemented that. It was a 5-year strategic plan. We're in the process of finishing that up, and we are poised to write a new version of this Creating Pathways for Adult Learners. Our vision, we envision adult education as a foundation of a career pathway system that prepares adults for the world of work. We want to make sure that adult learners, that we are partnering with different entities, key stakeholders such as our workforce arm, our Title III Wagner-Pizer, as well as Voc Rehab, and also local employers and local workforce investment boards. This is a key point for us, is to make sure that we're engaging a lot of individuals to make sure that we are on the right track to moving the adult learners towards economic sufficiency. As a part of this, we have worked very closely with our area planning councils. We're in the process now of taking a look at area planning councils to see how those area planning councils really connect in with WIOA, and making sure that we are not doing duplicative efforts. So that is our goal right now, is to make sure that this all connects together, that this Creating Pathways for Adult Learners is not something that we started when the law was signed back in July of 2014, but this is something that has been ongoing for us, and developing the pathways for adult learners. As you can see, there are 6 areas that we concentrated on: assessment, curriculum and instruction, data and accountability, partnerships, support services, and program design. In the assessment area, we're looking at all kinds of assessments. We're looking at those work-based assessments as well as the educational assessments. We're looking at our curriculum. We're making sure that within bridge programs and all of our different programs, that we are making sure that we're getting the input of employers as we build bridge programs, that we're making sure that we include our workforce side of our community college system, as well as our career and technical education side, and any other training. We have lots of programs that have focused and on bridge programs, healthcare, specifically CNA, pre-CNA, medical terminology, that they have definitely connected with not only the local workforce boards, but also working with the employers in those areas. So that's a whole part of what we do. Data and accountability, this is not our first rodeo with data and accountability as it relates to WIOA. We have lots of areas that we are responsible for and that we have to report every year annually to the Department of Education. We also are really strict about developing partnerships. Partnerships are key to our overall success. And we cannot develop these things alone, so we will definitely have to reach out to employers. And I think this is a good opportunity under WIOA for us to go beyond this point and really expand upon a lot of different areas that we really need to in order to be successful and in order to meet the letter of the law as it is written in WIOA. Support services are key, making sure that individuals that we reduce those barriers for individuals. So partnering with local community-based organizations, as well as with TANF and SNAP, ENT, and all of the different entities that provide services, trying to reduce those barriers for the individuals that we serve. So as you're looking at this, we deem as looking at our overall program design. And as you can see in the center square, it really talks a lot about career development, technology skills, as well as transition services. And so this is what we call our wheel of life, or our wheel of fortune. We want to make sure that at every level, on every spoke on this particular wheel, that individuals are receiving those technology skills, those transition services, either delivered through transition specialists, or they're partnering with within the community college system. These individuals are more than just counselors. They have to be able and knowledgeable about financial aid. They have to be knowledgeable about what's going on externally, outside of their organization, and also internally. What resources can we bring to bear in order to help our students move forward? And as you can see, we have a Bridge 1 concept, a Bridge 2. Our Bridge 1 concept is pretty much sort of a pre-bridge. Bridge 2 gets into more in-depth, where we look at contextualization, we look at career awareness, and we also look at those transition services. As we move along, you get over to the integrated model, and integrated education and training is one of the key required areas within Title II that we must provide in adult education. And this takes into consideration post-secondary education and training, as well as blending adult basic education with career and technical education. So the end result is that individuals come out with basic certificates, advanced certificates, or industry-recognized credentials. So adult education is a little bit more than just the literacy components. We provide the whole entire aspect of services to the students. We have another plan. It's our ICCB Workforce Education Plan, where we will be working, and the new volume of creating pathways for adult learning, we will use the Workforce Education Strategic Plan as a way, as a basis for our development, and some of the other areas that we're working on now with Title I, which is the regional planning pieces. So as a part of this plan, we want to ensure education and economic competitiveness. We want to strengthen our relationships with business and industry. We want to make sure that we're maximizing employer engagement in everything that we do, so that we can make sure that individuals get the employment that is needed and also that is available within the area. We also want to make sure that we're enhancing education and training at all levels. If you do not have a high school diploma, you're on this path. If you have decreased basic skills, then you're on this path. If you're entering through the door of business and industry, then we're working with you to make sure that things are aligned. If you're coming from a career technical education standpoint, then we want to make sure that you're a part of that process as well. As we develop integrated education and training projects, we are making sure that we consider all different elements and making sure that individuals are getting those basic certificates. We have gone through looking at policy changes that we have to do within institutions in order to make this successful. If you're an individual without a high school diploma, are there some ways that you can take a look at some of the services that are provided, and then as the individual is working towards a basic certificate or an industry recognized credential, that they can also earn that high school equivalency diploma. The last area, we want to make sure that things are moving quick. One of the areas that we noticed within the regional meetings that we held throughout the state is that employers want to make sure that education works quickly, that we're nimble, that we are able to react to what is going on within the different local areas as well as the larger workforce system. So we want to make sure that we're providing these career pathway programs that are quick, that will allow individuals to exit and get employment, and then if needed and they have the desire to do so, they can enter in. But when they enter in, they're not starting over. They're continuing on the track through their program of study. So this particular slide talks a little bit about WIOA and specifically Title II. And what it does is retain some of the purposes and what things we have to work towards. We definitely have to work towards employment and post-secondary education and training, but we also want to make sure that individuals become literate because there are a lot of individuals. We have about 1.5 million individuals within the state of Illinois that have less than 12 grades of education. So we want to make sure that we are pushing that individuals become literate and that they are also participating as a part of their children's development. We want them to complete a high school equivalency. We also want to make sure that they are making those transitions to post-secondary education and employment. We are also looking at how we assist immigrants and other individuals where English is not their first language. We want to make sure that they're improving skills and that improving their basic skills and that they have a good understanding of the American government system as well as individual freedoms and as also responsibilities related to citizenship. Within the law, within WIOA Title II, it expands, and AFLA stands for Adult Education and Family Literacy Act. So it does expand what it is that we do. A huge part of it is going to be promoting transitions from adult education to post-secondary education and training. And this is developed through career pathways. And how do we do that? So within our programs and services, things within our system there will be lots of changes there. We will focus, and we have focused, on developing those career pathways. We are wanting to make sure that we're assisting immigrants and English language learners, and we're improving all of the skills. And one of the things that was added in this particular law is the math skills of those individuals that are English language learners. So we want to make sure that we're incorporating math into the instruction, and also to make sure that individuals acquire, those that are immigrants are acquiring an understanding of the responsibilities of citizenship. So as we talk about the requirements, and we're going to get in a little bit about the purpose of adult education, but when we talk about adult education, here are a few of the things that we offer currently within adult education, and we know that over the next few months to a year that these areas are actually going to expand. So under adult education, there is adult basic education, which is everyone that tests on the test of adult basic education, the TABE test, and they score below a ninth grade reading level. So this is, ABE is everybody less than 9 grades of grade level equivalency. Adult secondary is everyone that is above 9.0. And these are the individuals that are sometimes categorized as being high school equivalency, preparing for the high school equivalency exam. English language acquisition are all the whole gamut. We have 6 levels of English language for English language learners, and they range from the very basic beginning levels all the way through the advanced levels. So these are for individuals where English is not their first language, and they need some of the oral speaking, comprehension, basic skill development. Literacy activities. This could be anything from more so the volunteer literacy coordination, making sure that volunteers are used in order to speed up the process of individuals, giving them that extra boost that will help them to increase their basic skills. Workplace education is something that I know that is going to be a huge push in this current law, that workplace education and how we work with businesses and how we prepare the individuals that they work with, how we prepare those individuals for the next level within their job. Maybe they're working on a promotion. Maybe they have low basic skills, so they're having problems with reading blueprints, or you know, there's some safety terminology that they're not familiar with. So what we do, we will go in, and I did this years ago, where we go in and help to assess those individuals and come up with customized programming that will help, working very closely with the business and industry departments within the community college systems, as well as with the local workforce boards. Family literacy is definitely still something. There are 4 components of family literacy. There's the child component, the adult basic education component, the parenting component, and so what we will do is just kind of work with the entire family there. There's less significance being placed on family literacy in the law these days. So there are very few programs that still exist, but it is an allowable activity under WIOA Title II. The Integrated English Language and Civics Education, what is this? We're still trying to figure that out with the Department of Ed. But what it is, I always say that it's IET with a civics flavor. What we're trying to do is work with English language learners to get them the skills that they need, the workforce preparation, and also training that they need in order to be successful in moving into employment. So we're going to make sure that all of those pieces, and they understand the civics components of being a citizen, looking at also those workforce skills that they need to have as well. Workforce preparation, those career awareness activities, those are all very important things. We've heard a lot about soft skills, and we've had lots of discussion about soft skills, essential skills, you know, come to work, be on time, dress appropriately, all of those different things. Those are things that not only that is an allowable activity, but these are things that we're looking to build into the curriculum to make sure that these things are definitely a part of it. Again, it's going to mean a lot of changes for our adult education system. We're going to have to be a little bit focused more on making sure that individuals are ready to make this commitment, because there are lots of individuals that need assistance, and at the end of the day, these are areas in which we're going to be evaluated on as a part of this law. IET, we'll talk a little bit about that, and we have talked about that. This is blending basic skills as with career technical education or training component, and bridge programs. We're expanding our bridge program models. We're coming up with concepts by which individuals can partner in order to deliver a bridge, especially if you're in rural areas or you have multiple providers that really don't have a lot of resources. So we're working to develop those types of models as well. So who can we serve in adult education? The eligibility criteria, you have to be at least 16 years of age or older. You cannot be enrolled in secondary school under state law, and you have to be basic skill deficient. you don't have a high school diploma or its recognized equivalent, and you have not achieved an equivalent level of education. So in this area right here, what we're looking at is individuals that they may have basic skill deficiencies, they may have a high school diploma, but they have some significant barriers because they lack a lot of the math skills or basic skills. And I think if you were to ask me to take a test that is that has algebra or the higher level algebra and trigonometry, I probably would be able to pass that level. But this is intended for individuals that are extremely basic skill deficient, that we want to help them build those skills. It may just be a lack of that they've been out of school so long that they don't have those skills any longer. So that's an enhancement there. But because we have 1.2 million individuals without a high school diploma, we want to make sure that we are serving that priority population first, and making sure that these individuals, that they're considered on a case-by-case basis. And also, lastly, English language learners are definitely a part of who we can serve. And they're not limited or bound. They're limited to the 16-year-old requirement. But if they don't have a high school diploma in their native country, they can still be served because their language skills are deficient. We serve annually 87,000 learners within the state of Illinois. So eligibility requirements under WIOA for some of our providers, organizations must have demonstrated effectiveness. This is something that is that's new, that we have to make sure. So what are we going to look at? We'll look at their past performance in previous years. We have all of that information. But this law really broadens things to include any types of partnerships with employers as a part of this process. So when we are entering into a competitive process, then we're going to be looking at all of these things, making sure that demonstrated effectiveness is there, making sure that there's partnerships with employers. We have 13 considerations within WIOA Title II, and we have to use those considerations in terms of funding our local providers when there is a competitive process. We have to align adult education standards with the K-12 standards, with the content standards or the college and career readiness standards. And in Illinois, we've already done that, and individual programs have developed their curriculum, and we are working with Illinois WorkNet in order to post that curriculum online. Also, as a part of the eligibility requirements, applicants will have to submit their applications to local workforce boards to determine if there is alignment. So we want to make sure that there is alignment, and we're hopeful that our adult education person is sitting on those local workforce boards and can really expand and expound upon what are the requirements within adult education. So this just gives you a glimpse of who under WIOA, once we do a competitive process, will be eligible. So this is, you'll see there, public housing authorities, faith-based organizations, higher education, and also the employer partnerships with any of the entities above. This gives you, the next slide gives you an indication of provider diversity within the state currently. We have 89 providers total, and you can see the breakout. We have 4 adult education regions. The northern, the city of Chicago is Region 1. The outlying suburbs are Region 2. Region 3 begins at Heartland, Blackhawk area, and that particular area, and goes all the way down to Lewis and Clark, and then it gets into the southern region of the state. We also have 40 area planning council districts. these area planning councils, there are 39 community college districts in which our area planning councils are around, and then one area planning council, which is the Department of Corrections. So I'm going to pause briefly here and see if there are any questions.
We've got a couple, Jennifer. Someone's asking, based on the eligibility criteria, can adult education assist WIOA customers who want to attend training but score below that 9.0 on the math or reading TABE test?
Yes, that is something that we think that we know that we're really good at, is assessing the individuals, and so that's something that we hope that local workforce boards will look to local adult education programs to do, is look at assessments and also assess according to the educational guidelines. But yes, individuals can be served if they fall below that particular area. But again, it's the priority population are those individuals without that high school diploma.
Just so everyone's aware, we are still working to finalize some of our definitions. Hopefully we're getting very close to that, one of them being attending any school for eligibility purposes at the Title I level. As Jennifer mentioned, for the Title II, it is attending any secondary school. So they can help a little bit different population than what Title I does. However, having said that, like I said, we're going to hopefully issue some policy shortly that will include some definitions of what that means in terms of what attending school means. But also remember that adult education is one of the 3 programs that are exempt from being considered as attending school as far as adult, is it adult gym or it's the youth build, the adult education, and then the youth, what's the third one? Job Corps that are exempt from that part of the eligibility criteria as far as they're not considered as attending school if you're in adult education for purposes of Title I. Another question is, can you serve someone with a high school diploma who is basic skills deficient?
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much the answer that I guess we can do that, but again, the priority population are those individuals without a high school diploma, but those programs can serve on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, has ICCB workforce plan been released yet? And if so, it would be useful, their comment is it would be useful to use or to have for the local and regional planning.
Right. We are in the actual strategic plan has not been developed, but the regional documents that were, the regional sessions that were held around the state, that information will be released, and it should be released fairly soon. DCO and ICCB are now finalizing that with our contractors, so we should have that posted by mid-November, and I know that's kind of late, but that's when it will be posted.
And just to follow up on that, I think that's a very good point, and we will work with our consulting team to make sure that in the December meetings that we're doing on regional planning, that those principles and those strategies discussed under that will be incorporated.
Okay, they're wondering how the budget issues are affecting things, especially in Chicago area where adult literacy programs normally are funded by ICCB, your Title II funds, and have not been provided since June. Thus, they're laying off teachers, coordinators, and suspending classes.
Well, I can tell you that yes, we are affected by the budget impasse. Yes, we do know that all programs throughout the state are laying off or making decisions as to whether they will lay off individuals. That is kind of the hard part about this. WIOA still continues to march on, but adult education funding does not at this point. So we are at this pretty much this impasse. But there are some programs that are continuing on right now. They may be laying off some of their teachers or downsizing some of their programs. But you know, what we're working on right now is to see if we can get federal funds released. That's something that we have been working on for quite some time. But there is no easy answer to this particular question. We are going to continue to work to prepare for WIOA because we're obligated to do so because we do have federal dollars. And the issue is that without spending authority from the state, we cannot draw down those federal dollars. But I want to make sure that we know that we do have federal dollars for this current fiscal year, but without that spending authority from the state, there's no way that we can draw down. Once that is determined that we can draw down our federal dollars, we will get those out as quickly as possible. I've already informed the Department of Education of the situation that we have here as it relates to WIOA and moving forward, and they do understand. So I would be more than happy to discuss that with you offline if you need more information.
Okay. Dave Steckman's asked, how do you see the need for work-based learning to be integrated into your models?
I think because this is so new to us, I think that is still an area that we will need to look at, and definitely will be something that we will include as a part of our next volume of our strategic plan for adult education. It will require that we work very closely with our local workforce board in doing that, especially as we're developing these bridge programs or Bridge Plus programs or integrated education and training programs. I think that will be a great component for our students to have that as a part as they approach employment in the future. And I think that'll be a good training base for them as well. So we'll have to do that.
A follow-up to the budget issue is you've indicated you're doing things at the ICCB level, but they're wondering what they can do without funds to prepare for WIOA, even knowing that it was implemented on July 1st, went into effect.
I think that you can make sure that you're understanding the law. You can also work with your local workforce boards. You can start to investigate where the OneStop centers are within your particular area. I think that it's very important that that you start to take a look at your curriculum, making sure that you have aligned your curriculum with content, the content standards, with college and career readiness standards. I think you can start to look at each other and say, okay, how can we partner to do some of these activities that are going to be required of us? I think you can start to take a look at your programming. This may be a good time to really take a look at your program and look at it as it relates to WIOA. So I know that this is not the greatest answer, but again, some programs have closed down, some have not. But you should utilize your time to really kind of understand the law and how we need to implement it.
Then we'll have a couple more before we get back to the presentation. Someone's asking if there's an average time for study for a participant to get through programs that lead to increasing the grade level, or maybe even for me, is there a limit on how long they should be in a program that leads to that?
Well, number one, there's not a limit. It's going to, and just to the question that was asked, it's going to depend on the individual. But in saying that, we are also emphasizing that it has to be as quick as possible. So any type of technology that adult education programs can infuse in order to speed that process, I think is very, very important. Individuals come in with varying basic skill levels, and some will move quicker because it's just a brush up, and some will progress a lot slower. We get a lot of individuals that have come in that were not diagnosed and having some sort of a disability. when they were in high school, or they don't want to reveal that. So we have to do a better job of assessing individuals, in which we are. We're doing a lot more diagnostic assessment through our evidence-based reading instruction to really get to the core of why individuals are not progressing at a quicker rate.
Okay, we'll take one more, and then some of these I think we might get answered in the rest of the presentation as far as planning. But the last one we'll take right now is, are there any plans to move towards a different GED testing process?
Yes, there is. Beginning January 1st, 2016, we will have 2 additional assessments. One is we already have the GED test that we're using currently. We will expand and use the task assessment, which is a data resource corporation, CTB McGraw-Hill product, and also HiSET, which is through Educational Testing Services. These will be available in some areas of the state beginning in January. Because of the budget impasse, this has kind of moved our timeline, but we do anticipate that most will test. Those 2 assessments, HiSET and TASC, will be available in both computer-based as well as paper-based testing. Okay, so we're going to just talk a little bit of these considerations that you have here based upon the previous conversation. This just gives you an idea of what we have to evaluate programs under WIOA when we do a competitive process. They have to have technology. They have to be responsible for the needs within the region and also at the local level. They have to serve the most in need population, and they have to demonstrate how they're doing that. We have to consider past effectiveness in serving of the providers in serving individual students. We have to also look at their alignment activities with the OneStop centers, the use of the standards, integrated education and services, as well as coordination of local support centers. There are 3 new titles, and we talked and hit a little bit on a couple of these, or all of these. There are 3 new Title II activities that we will be responsible for. That is the integrated education and training, and you see the definition there. This is something that blends both the training, the actual training piece with the basic skills. We're looking at occupations and clusters that are in high demand in the areas. So therefore, any bridge programs or integrated training programs has to be in the areas in which your local workforce boards have identified. So if it's IT in the northern part of the state and manufacturing in the southern part of the state, those programs will have to make sure that they're aligning. And usually with those local workforce boards, you identify more than one. So there is opportunity there to expand. So that has to, when you look at submitting your plans or your applications to determine alignment with the local plans, those are things that we are looking at right now that we're going to make sure that the local workforce boards are looking at, is to make sure that whatever is being proposed is aligned with those areas. The workforce preparation, again, those soft skills, critical thinking skills, the digital literacy, making sure that individuals really have those skills, self-management skills, all of those things that will help support an individual in employment. And integrated English and civics, it focuses on civics, but it also incorporates both of the integrated and training as well as the workforce preparation, but really focusing on those individuals that are coming here as citizens and need to really understand, you know, what the workforce training looks like and what their rights and responsibilities are as part. Currently, we have civics competencies that our local programs have used, and so we're going to take those and expand upon those as we look at this integrated education and training component. In terms of, we have some state leadership activities. These are some of the required activities that we have to do. Alignment of adult education and activities with the core programs, all 4 core programs, Title I, Title III, Title IV, Title II, all have to make sure that we're coordinating. And so we have to come up with leadership activities that are around OneStop partnerships and development of the unified state plan strategy. So these are going to be definitely a part of what we do. This joint training, professional development. We've talked about a lot of those things in our statewide meetings, and we want to continue that, and hopefully that will continue at the local level. So high-quality professional development, making sure, and that's the purpose of this webinar, is to make sure that everyone is in understanding of what adult education is and the client population that we serve. So high-quality professional development to improve that instruction. How can we make sure that it's nimble, that it's quick, that it meets employer needs as well as the needs within your local areas. And also technical assistance to providers based on rigorous research. So we have to do lots of research and make sure that if there's some best practices out there, we want to be able to grab those and see about really getting those across the state. I think that's really important. There's some good things that are going on, great things that are going on in adult education programs that I think that can be utilized not only by other adult education programs, but at the local workforce board levels, within our community college system, and throughout the state. Monitoring and evaluation of quality of adult education programs is going to be key as a part of this. I'm part of a national technical working group that we're looking at monitoring, evaluation, and all of the aspects of reporting and performance. And this is going to be key to ensure that we're able to meet all of the performance requirements. Under the Unified Plan, you're already familiar with what we have to do as core partners, but we wanted to, I want to emphasize that adult education definitely is a part of that Unified Plan. We have to put things in it. We cannot just staple a plan together. We're going to have to really address some of the issues that are outlined in the Title I areas as it relates to workforce boards, one-stop centers, infrastructure costs, and all of those different areas. And that the plan has to have a strategic vision and goal, which at the state level we've, and inclusion of some of the locals and some of the local tag groups, we have already started to develop visions and a vision and goal. Both the plan will be approved by both secretaries of both labor as well as education. We will be emphasizing increased accountability for all the core programs, and that this law goes just like for the other core programs, it goes through 2020. So how does this affect adult education, the Unified Plan? Well, we have specific elements that we have to include as a part of the plan. We have to participate in the development of the state plan as well as local plans. There has to be definite collaboration. Adult education is seated on the local workforce boards, and we've been working on that, and I know that at the local level, adult education is there with the exception of just a few areas right now. Only one representative, so adult education, it has to be the person that is really responsible for the day-to-day activities is what we're moving towards. And in terms of the local workforce board, whoever that person is, because there are only 26 local workforce, 22 local workforce boards, thank you, we have 39 or 40 area planning council districts, so there are going to be some overlap. So we're working with our area plans to make sure we know who that local workforce board representative for adult education is and the communication process of that person to communicate back to all of the area planning councils that are in that particular area of the local workforce board. So we are a required partner of the local OneStop, like Career and Technical Education is a required partner as well. So we're required to participate in providing funding for infrastructure costs as well as shared costs, as well as engagement as a part of development of MOUs. So this is all very important in the process, and I know that a question is going to pop up is how can we do infrastructure costs when we don't have a budget at this point? Those are things that I'm going to work out. Those are things that we will have to work out. And these are shared infrastructure costs, so it's not just the person that is located in the OneStop that has to pay these expenses, but it is all of the adult education programs that will have to contribute. So we will make sure, and those are things that we're addressing. We're addressing those things at the state level and trying to come up with policies and how we're going to move in that direction. The accountability measures are also crucial. We are required, we all will have the same accountability measures. Adult Ed, you may have a few more, but on our side, but it is a requirement that we all will be held responsible for the same performance measures. And then there are other items that are a part of Title I, Section 102, that we are a part of. So this just, and it's really tiny, sorry. This just gives you a little bit of a better understanding about the adult education one-stop career services and what we have. This is kind of a draft, and we're still looking at it and determining what services adult education will provide on-site at the one-stop center. So as you can see, outreach, intake, and orientation, that can be performed at the one-stop. Skills and supportive services needs assessment to determine, what external and internal needs that individuals are going to have, how to make those referrals to different community organizations or to the local workforce boards. Program coordination and referral, that will be on site because in most areas there's more than one adult education provider providing services, so that the person that is in the one-stop will be responsible for making sure that person is referred to the appropriate instructional institution. Training provider performance and cost information. This is just a requirement within the law. We will have to come up with templates, and adult education knows that we have a DAISY system. DAISY is our data and information system for Illinois, and so that information is there. We're going to be working with our contractor to see how can you just push a button and this information is magically revealed. And I have no technology experience, so I'm expecting magic to just happen. So also performance information for local area as a whole, that should be available on site. That information, again, a push of the button, and also information about availability of supportive services in the referral process. The other areas that you see that are shaded out are areas that we cannot do as a part of the local one-stop, so that's where we are concentrating. Okay, so accountability and transparency, again, everybody is going to be responsible. All core partners are going to be responsible for performance, negotiated level for common indicators. We are not quite sure, if we're going to have one measure or if we're going to have different measures across core partners. We just don't know that yet until things are finalized, and that we will be responsible for reporting at the state, local, and about all of the different performance targets that we have. So we have to make that visible to the public. So here are the performance targets, and I think everybody is familiar with those: measurable skill gains, median earnings, employment, second quarter after exit, fourth quarter after exit, and an area, obtain a secondary school diploma, but it's only associated with if you get a post-secondary credential, and if you enter into employment. So those things are a little different for adult education than they were in the past. We just counted if you transition to post-secondary. Number two, if you entered employment. So, or if you received the secondary diploma. So now that secondary diploma is connected with employment or post-secondary education and training. So that's why the program has to be developed a little bit differently in order to make sure that we're meeting the letter of the law. The last area is effectiveness of services to employers, and we provided comment to the federal government, and this is one of those areas that we think that we should partner with our local Wagner Pizer, as well as with the Title I with DCEO and the local workforce boards as it relates to that particular area. So, current adult education measures, here's what we measure so far. We look at educational functioning levels, TAPE, for those individuals that are in ABE or adult basic education or adult secondary education, for those individuals that are in English language acquisition instruction. CASAS, Best Literacy, and Best Plus is what we use for those individuals. Entering employment, not the employment, but entering employment, retained employment, entering post-secondary education and training, and high school diploma or its equivalency. So those are the areas that we collect currently. I know that, I said earlier we're going to put away some of the myths about what adult education does, but we do quite a bit in terms of collection of data. We collect that data from our local providers. They enter this information into our DAISY system. We do a data match at the end of the year with IDES to match for wages for entered employment and retained employment. We also use, for community colleges, we use our national clearinghouse records as well as our A1 record layout for community colleges in order to determine whether individuals have entered post-secondary education. We also look at we are the arm that handles high school equivalency, so all three of the high school equivalency exams, we have a database for that we do data match. Also, our performance levels are negotiated annually and we submit those through our national reporting system, and we negotiate with the federal government on an annual basis. So this pretty much just gives you resources and contact information. If you have any, you can contact me, you can contact Levon Nelson, or you can contact Jamil Steele. We are the leads for the ICCB on this, and I think
we have more questions. Yeah, we have more questions.
Okay.
A couple that were remaining from prior.
Okay.
Will the local adult education programs be able to make local decisions regarding that local planning process? Are they going to be included with that process?
Okay. So I'm thinking that this is an adult education person that's asking.
It's actually one of our local area administrators.
Yes. Local adult education programs are to be included as a part of the planning process.
She's asking, can they make decisions?
Yes, they will have to make those decisions. That's why they have to make sure that they are knowledgeable about the law and what the implications are. We make sure that our local programs are up to date on information as we have, and we will make sure that they have enough information that they can make those local decisions. It will be up to that person that is the representative to communicate information and back to the local the local area planning councils so that they make sure that they can provide them with input.
And then as you move forward in complying with all the WIOA regulations, is there a sense that the system will change? They're asking, they said traditionally OneStops have not served adults with low literacy or English language learners. So is the system being changed at all to train staff in the OneStops to work with these populations?
I think that that's something that at the state level we're talking about. We have talked a lot about having some of the big meetings together, joint meetings, specifically with the core partners, local workforce boards, all of the core partners, to make sure that we are, that there's, because it is our expectation that that adult students without high school diplomas will and can be served within the local workforce board training area. So that is our expectation. Now, the issue with serving English language learners without high school diplomas, I think that, I mean, not without high school diplomas, but that do not have social security numbers, those are areas that we're going to have to address at the national level as well as at the state level.
Okay, are your Title II funds able to support alternative school programs?
We do have some alternative school programs that we currently fund through the regional offices of education. There's some school district programs as well that we also fund as well. The key there is separation, making sure that an individual is separated from their regular public school process before adult education can serve them, and that they have to provide that documentation, because we don't want to go against any laws here in terms of compulsory school-age attendance rules.
With general eligibility of not just WIOA, but many of the federal programs, the customer has to meet selective service eligibility. So someone's asking, do you check that when customers come in?
No, we do not. But if that is something that we need to discuss, then we don't check any wage information. I think, I think we have maybe categories, just ranges of where people fall. We collect information whether an individual is a TANF recipient. We put that information into the system. But in terms of selective services and those things, those are things that we're looking at as what do we need to update in the system in order as we move forward.
Okay. I think one of the questions is authorized to work. Is that one of the criteria for adult ed?
No. No.
Okay, so both of those two general eligibility, we currently do that at Title I, and as we move to get everybody in a single one-stop presence, you know, that'll just be worked out as to who will be checking for those general eligibility issues outside of, you know, us doing it alone at the Title I level.
Okay. Just so I can understand, at what point does a qualified adult ed client become enrolled in adult education? Is there a certification, or how does the process?
The process is that the individual, as long as they meet the criteria as we've listed, the 16-year-old, then they're assessed. Once they're assessed, then they determine where they rank out in terms of, you know, whether they're an adult basic education or adult secondary education student, and what levels they are, because there are different levels under each of those categories. For English language acquisition, there are several levels that are there as well. So we will assess them to place them at the appropriate level, and then they go for their orientation and all of those things, and then they're enrolled in the program. And where our programs vary, they are 16 weeks, they're 12 weeks, some are 8 weeks, some are, you know, it just depends on that. Right now, there's probably not as many classes that are going right now because of the budget impact.
And they go into your daily system at that time then?
Yes.
Prior to assessment or after assessment?
They go in after they are assessed. Once they become an individual person, they're entered into the system. They're placed. That information is put in the system. All of their information, all of their identifying information, as well as their assessments. Each time they're assessed, that information is there. All of the performance information, all of the our instructor information, the classes, the courses that they're taking, all of that information, and then we're able to run reports, do analysis of the different things within the system.
Piggyback one last question. That earlier, I think you said that there are some alternative schools that are within the program, but then we said if somebody's in adult ed, they're not considered in school. So if that logic works through, we would want to get her list of alternative schools. Correct. Because those would be considered out of school use.
Right.
And that's a big thing. Really
Right.
is.
Yeah. Exactly.
We do keep records of those. That is a requirement of our local adult education programs that they have to keep that as a part of the student record, that they have separated from their high school program.
Okay, how many are you aware of the local areas or the one-stops do you have an actual presence in now? Because, we're working to where you'll have presence in all of the comprehensives in each of the 22 LOAs, but at this time,
I think the majority of them, there is a presence right now, and I know we're working towards that. But I know that in the past that adult education has either been a part of the local workforce boards, or they have been on different councils, like the youth council and some of the others. So there has been some participation there.
Okay. And is your vision for adult education will have, that's kind of piggybacking.
Right.
And my understanding is you'll have to have a presence in the comprehensive in every one of the 22 local areas.
Yes.
They're asking about physical, though, not just presence.
It's our hope, and in just reading the law, that adult education has to have a presence in that particular facility. And we know at the state level, as we've been having discussions, that there are issues maybe with space and all of those different things. And those are things that we're working through and trying to come to some determination as to how that will happen.
And then we have a suggestion, or maybe something you can respond to now, but especially when you get down to the southern area of the state, where your customers and maybe your programs are quite a ways away from a one-stop, are you considering that distance and how you're going to be able to serve the customer under new WIOA requirements? So they're looking for strategy. I don't know if that's something you want to answer today, but
I don't think,
definitely want to consider.
Yeah, I think I can consider that, but I don't think right now. I know that there are some comprehensive one-stops, but there are also others that are just operate. So there may be services in other one-stops that are not considered comprehensive. And I do know that there are some adult education, and that's why that person that's there can also refer to others, and it's incumbent upon them to know those areas. And if they're working with the area planning council heads, then they should know where other adult education instructional programs are offered.
Okay, you indicated that their performance results are available at local level. Is that correct?
Yes, performance. Each area should be able to provide what their performance is, and then also on our website we do have performance, a technical guide, and it talks about our data and also the outcomes from each of our different programs. But moving forward, under WIOA, it is required that we have some sort of public report card or anything that we have to put, and those are things that we're working towards and have all of those elements that we're going to move in that direction later. So.
Okay, to clarify with the adult education, we want to make sure everyone's understanding. Under WIOA, adult education is not considered as in school by definition. However, even though they might be participating or utilizing alternative schools in the adult education program, those we think would fit that same definition, but not all alternative schools are run through adult education.
Correct.
So you can go backwards and assume all alternative schools are also exempt as or considered as out of school. So we need to clarify that. We'll issue that, if not in new policy. If we can get those out before we get a clarification, we'll do it in revised policy. But you want to make sure you're thinking through that properly. And while all adult education is exempt, that doesn't mean all alternative education would also be exempt.
What we need to obtain is a list of the alternative schools that are currently part of the adult education.
We can do that.
Okay. And then as far as a representative in the one-stops, going forward under WIOA, it is a requirement that the adult education will have a physical presence in each of the comprehensive one-stops. So in some of the larger local areas that have multiple other one-stop facilities, they don't necessarily have to have a physical presence. Not to say they may not choose to because of the size and quantity of customers that might come into those facilities, but they do have to have a presence in at least one comprehensive center throughout each of the local areas, 22 of those.
But Jennifer, you're still working through, because I think what they're asking is if you've got 5 or 6 adult ed providers in an LWIA, do all 5 or 6 of them have to be in the center?
Those are things that, we have to work on. And in the last week, we talked about, what will be our FTEs. And so it could mean that in the morning it may be one program, in the afternoon it'll be another program. It will just depend, and so we will have to work with that local workforce area. Particularly, I think this question is coming from our largest area, so we have to make sure that those things. And I do know that there are other affiliate sites that are out there that adult education can provide some services there. So we're not expecting everyone. So in our largest area that has about 35 different providers in Chicago, we're not expecting all 35 to be in a one-stop. But the individual that is there has to be able to make the referral to the appropriate adult education program, because you're not going to be able to handle everyone in that particular location.
And then there are some specific to your adult programs out there. One, will all of them be expected to participate in the funding, even though they may not have the physical presence? And also, suggestions for creating a presence in one-stop that is not the institution's district. So I think you indicated that you've got a lot of discussions still that need to be held as far as handling each of the local areas.
That's correct.
The comprehensive centers, how you're going to staff those, as well as the funding. So, as we've indicated through many of these webinars from the Title I perspective, and now that we're bringing in all of the agency partners, there are still ongoing interagency discussions. Jennifer has been a part of those from the Title II perspective. Lisa Jones has been a part of those from the Title I perspective, as well as other staff here at OET with the Department of Commerce. And those are just ongoing discussions, and your suggestions and points of discussion are definitely helpful to ensure that those things are all being considered. It's a slower process because we aren't getting all the guidance that we need from DOL as swiftly as we expected, but they are ongoing. I would suggest if you have a question, if you're from the adult education program, send those to the contacts here. If you're from Title I, send those on to either us here at OET, or send all of them on to KEB as the facilitators of those discussions. They could accept those as well.
And if you have a specific tag that you're on, and because we're certainly accepting comments from all of the partners that are participating in the tags. So, you might not be on a particular tag, but you have some insight on, at least your presence in a one-stop or affiliate. If you would get those, you can funnel those to Bethany Yeager at KEB, and we can, look at those comments as we're coming in. I think one of the things that we've tried to do at the state level, as you all know, is, consider as many, suggestions as possible and feel like you guys are all participating as much as possible in the process, because this is a big change for all of us.
Okay, I think we've addressed all of the questions. If anyone has, if anyone has any they want to present over the phone, otherwise we appreciate everyone's participation. Jennifer, thank you very much. It was very, very informative. I know we've learned a lot. I know we are working with you on those interagency teams, and we know it's a very detailed process that we're going through. Next week's webinar will be held same time. This new webinar URL, please forward this on to staff and providers, along with it's the same telephone number. You need to dial in. Next week, I think we have them, if Bethany wants to speak up, I think we have them scheduled for the next either 3 or maybe 4 weeks. We do have a topic and a presenter already lined up. So Bethany, if you want to speak to what next week's webinar information is, please do. Or Christy Jones, if you're there, either one of you have that information. As always, I will put the information into the webinar room in our welcome screen here in the next day or two, so you can check back there to see what the topic is. You'll get information and the link and telephone number from KEB on Friday or next Monday, as always, as well. Those can be forwarded on to additional staff. So we'll keep you informed. We appreciate your patience in waiting these last couple weeks for getting enough people into the room. We do have that added access ability, so we should not run into that problem in the future. As always, these are recorded and available on the WIOA implementation website, Illinois WorkNet site. So you can always go there and view these, review them if you missed some information or would like to remember some of the information that was presented by Jennifer today, or some of the answers to those questions that she had. Again, thank you very much. We appreciate your participation and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.